All right, welcome back. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow issue number 3. So far, to recap, make sure to like, comment, subscribe first of all. But to recap, Supergirl is on a mission to stop Krem of the Yellow Hills because she needs to save crypto. That's her reasoning right now. That's what we saw at the end of last issue. And Supergirl is being kind to Ruthie. So let's go ahead and hop in with that information. I'm loving the series so far. Leave any recommendations of series you want me to go over like this. We had been on Coron for some 3 weeks, dodgily pursuing every lead in our pursuit of the commendable Krem of the Yellow Hills when we finally arrived in Maple. And we meet the mayor of Maple right here. This dude's building a stack of cards, building a house of cards in front of him. Compared to the mammoth cities we had toured, Maple was at what the time seemed modest, calm, and quiet. I'm of course aware of the startled jolt such a statement may provoke in any reader, given Maple's now almost legendary, infamous reputation in the future, but to understand this story and the actions of those persons contained herein, one must suspend today's prejudice and turn one's mind back to that long ago moment, days before Supergirl uncovered the horror. So there's a horror scene in Maple. What is it? We'll have to see. And Supergirl's like, excuse me, sir. And this guy's like, our restrooms are closed, blah, blah, blah. Best we could do is some other blah, blah, blah. I think you misunderstand. We've been looking for Krem, an off-worlder like us. I think he came through here. Do you know that? What was that name again? It's Krem of the Yellow Hills. And the man says, I don't think we've had any real outsiders, so can't really say I know the guy. And so the girls say, well, maybe he used like another name. Can you just point us to the records and we'll look at them? And then the house of cards falls down. Look, girls, I've answered your questions and in fact provided more information that was required in terms of the current state of our restroom. As you can see, I'm engaged in matters that are not your concern and I'd ask you to leave. Basically saying, piss off, I don't care. I have seen it asserted elsewhere that Supergirl was a woman of infinite patience. The type who took the world as it was and waited for peace for it to be a better itself. And then in her presence, I would say, that is not my experience, as she blows the stack of cards and walks off. And so leaving, they go through the city where Ruthie is like, that guy, he didn't really have any value. Just because the lawman does not recall an incident does not mean the incident didn't happen, which is true. If a tree falls down and nobody hears it, did it fall down? Yes, at the end of the day, the tree did fall down. And then she says he remembers he was lying. Oh, how did you know that, Supergirl? It's not easy. Like I said, the psychology here is complex. It took me a while to get to know enough of it, but he was just an asshole. And I've met a lot of assholes throughout the years to know that assholes lie. And I love that. We saw some of her being different from Superman. I'm sure Superman's entire thing of being patient and wanting the better person to come out on top and helping people rubbed off in shows for Supergirl, but some of that is not the case. And so they go to the hotel or the inn. Welcome to Maple. We're happy to have you. Are you guys going to go in 7B, which is my personal favorites? And then we get a little hint of their life. Why does this say purple or blue? Oh, well, just put your name under blue. All off-worlders are blue. Like my mama always said, to be purple, you gotta be purple. And then she says, nobody signed purples in a while. What's that about? Not a bunch of them come in here yet. Don't mind that. I haven't seen any lately. You just sign under that blue, you'll be okay. And then Supergirl is getting hint of suspicion. Why did the purples stop coming? And I will admit to you that this many decades on, it's been a rare day that has passed by when I've not pondered the words of that woman. And they see the innkeeper shift forms. She's like, well, my dear, if you want the room and turns a little bit evil, says you gotta sign the paper. That's the law. And Supergirl, hint of suspicion. Supergirl's not an idiot, by the way. In my long, preparatic life, I admit to having set my feet on the sod of countless planets, and on each of them, time and occasion permitting, I've undertaken to find their particular version of peach pie. And I can't honestly claim to have found one that I thought was very happy. And Supergirl just does sign the paper. That night, we went to the roof of the Maple Bed and Breakfast and spent an hour or so looking over that cozy town. We watched a grocer closing shop and heading home to his wife, a young lad on the corner, hollering on and on, trying to peddle his newspapers to the passing crowd, a family of 4 arriving at a diner, greeting the waitress with a hug and a joke before taking a table they seemed to believe was theirs by birth. A mother holding the hand of her beloved child as they sauntered across the street at a slow and unsteady pace, waving to the waiting cars, those drivers enthusiastically waiting back. And look at this imagery. The planets. You can see different clouds, different planets in the atmosphere, different stars as the sun sets across the hills. Again, this art is beautiful. Take time to acknowledge artists. And my impression was that on a whole, an agreeable town full of agreeable people, trying as all folk try to make their way through life without causing too much harm. And Supergirl says, I can see everyone. Which just goes to show how little you can see from the roof of the Maple Bed and Breakfast. And Supergirl says, I look out and see everyone is blue, which alarms Supergirl because she's not looking at the smaller things. She's looking at the bigger picture, while Ruthie is looking at the small things and is like, everybody seems happy, so everybody must be happy. But there's a little bit of a darker history here. As the next morning they go on to the diner instead of eating at the inn. And they make small talk. It's like, I didn't really sleep a lot. Well, me neither. Supergirl really doesn't need sleep. Oh my gosh, I almost just burped everywhere. Same way that she doesn't really need food, like Superman doesn't need food, as long as they have the yellow sun. And it seems like she has a yellow sun. We saw the sun earlier, so she should be fine. And then Supergirl calls the waitress. And Supergirl asks the same question that she asked the innkeeper. What about the purples? Like the welcome sign above the counter, it's repainted like the fountains I saw out on the main. I looked underneath the paint, it says no purples. Why no purples? Why paint over it? I don't understand. And the waitress completely ignores her and says, I don't care. You got any orders? I got customers. Well, I'm asking about the sign. I know, and I heard you, and I heard your order. But focus on something else. We know what your whole galaxy does. You destroy your planet. Don't come here to foul up ours. Digging at the Kryptonian heritage. And so Supergirl does some investigating around the town. We spent the rest of the day walking about the town, talking to anyone willing to talk, asking them the same question. Have you seen the man Krem? And all of them giving the same answer. No. Everything here is as it's always been. Everything is nice, clean, perfect, and blue. We're all blue. We've always been blue. Now stop asking questions because there's nothing else to say. And it seems that their investigations are getting them a little bit more attention than they would like, getting them in trouble, as Supergirl wakes up Ruthie and says, people are close, as she blocks a bullet. And then more bullets come, and so she grabs hold of Ruthie and protects Ruthie with her body. I stated with neither shame nor pride that despite Supergirl's encouragings, I could not help but scream. Gentleman Death was not an uncommon visitor on the plains, and we were taught from Wearing not to dread his presence at our table. As with all guests, we were to treat him with the utmost respect, granting him the privileges and customs we offer to any member of our family. In the years preceding my birth, 3 of my siblings passed before they saw the first son, and I recall with great clarity my mother insisting that she never shed a tear at their loss. She would say without a snip of regret, it would be rude to bawl in front of the gentleman, and I do not care for rudeness. In that moment, many miles from home, as I listened to each bullet plink off Supergirl's back, I knew full well that were it not for the long ago ruin of a green planet, I would be waste on the floor. And I howled not out of fear, but in recognition of the vicissitudes of the universe that conspires both to kill us and keep us safe from harm. And I do believe that the gentleman heard that howl for what it was and smiled knowingly as he left the room. Basically, Ruthie's lesson was, don't fear death. It happens to everybody. But in this situation, she could not help but be afraid and thank Supergirl for coming, despite her circumstances. And after some time, the shooting finished. Supergirl looked over at me, but first, tragically not last time, I felt the firm tingle that comes when someone's x-raying with your eyes. When she was satisfied as my well-being, she placed me in a closet and asked me to swear upon the gods above and below that I'd bide there until she returned. And so I agreed. She nodded, and then she was gone. And Supergirl, doing the thing saying, hey, you're okay? Hide in this corner, do not leave, and flies out to go to see our next victim, which is the mayor again. So in the morning, she goes and sees the mayor, who is saying, I'm not actually supposed to help you. I do not care. I answer to my voters, not Supergirl. We're grateful that you caught the men who allegedly attacked you. Thank you very much. But this happens to be our planet, our town. They're under my responsibility. I will deal with them. You come to this town, cause disruption, and now You demand that everyone act as if you are the princess of Maple. It is foolish, basically saying, know your place, girl. You do not come here as an outsider and stir up trouble. And then what does Supergirl do? Loses her patience again, picks up his desk. I'm done. I'm done waiting with you. I'm done with the damn town. You tried to scare me off because you're dumb. So now I know. You're hiding something and I'm going to find it. And then destroys his table. It's like, I'm Supergirl. And with his threats to arrest her, Supergirl doesn't care. Because honestly, you're not going to be able to take down Supergirl. And so outside, she has Ruthie. Up to that time, we had traveled by what seemed to be ordinary means. Be it at the Howl Ferry to get to Koran, the various automobiles and trains available on the planet are just strolling the streets. And so now they're taking another form of travel. Now, I was aware that once we reached Yellow Sun, Supergirl held at her disposal a faster way to travel these distances. As Ruthie hops onto the back, she's getting ready to fly. I asked her why she was perambulating, what she might be soaring, if she dismissed it as a preference. It was not until Maple that I learned her true reasoning. When she apologized, saying she needed to fly, but she could not leave me alone for the fear of another strike, she knew I'd spent my days solidly on the ground. It did not want me needlessly frightened, but there was no other choice. So she's taking the longer route because she doesn't want to frighten and basically just scare off Ruthie. She wants to make sure Ruthie is safe. Because you see, all that time, she was worried about me. As they fly through the skies. Oh my gosh, another beautiful panel. I love this. Seeing the cloud and the planets. It's beautiful. And then, for hours, we circled around the perimeter of Maple. Supergirl kept quiet as she scanned the ground. I did not know what she sought, and I did not ask. A woman has a right to keep her quiet as far as I'm concerned. So finally, she landed. Without a word, she started digging. Her limbs moved with such celerity, they produced fervent gusts of wind and muck that almost knocked me to my knees. She stopped when she found this sign, and it says Purple Town. And then she stopped again when she found the bodies. These can only be presumed to be the purple people. And so what does Supergirl do? She flies all the way back and just charges into the mayor and is like, yo, talk, as he shoots his gun. And she just stares at him and cries and then flicks the tear away. Not so long before we drove in, there were two kinds of people who lived in Maple, the purples and the blues. The blues, who were wealthier, more abundant, considered the purples to be less than and limited their comings and goings in an unjust manner. Basically, they thought they were superior. As a part of this treatment, the blues forced the purples to live in substandard housing located just outside of Maple, a small village they labeled Purple Town. This was the state of affairs when the brigands arrived, and then the man stares back at her, horrified, as we get the actual backstory of the town. I'm sure you know of the dastardly reputation of Barbon's brigands, so I will not waste your time cataloging their long history of Holocaust, but for the young and ignorant, allow me to quickly summarize what they are and their methods. They are an unholy gathering of men who enjoy the slaughter of others with every breath they're allowed. And so they go from planet to planet, enjoying themselves. As killing can be costly, what with the need for fuel and weaponry, they traditionally do offer a way out. They will accept remuneration in exchange for them overlooking one city and moving on to the other. The price for such mercy, however, is unsurprisingly steep. Too steep for even the blues, who when the brigands came from Maple, could not afford its salvation and thus faced an unspeakable terror. A dilemma the authorities lamented in the jailhouse within earshot of the bastard, Krem of the Yellow Hills, who was passing through Maple at that time and was being held on a charge of drunken misconduct. Basically, this man, this bounty hunter, I don't really want to call him a bounty hunter actually, but he goes from planet to planet just murdering people for the fun of it and says, I'm going to either murder you or you pay me. And of course, Krem is there, which the blues lied about, but that man came through and apparently he assisted. To the shock of no man, woman, or child, the dastardly Krem offered them a solution surely born in the soul of three devils. Knowing his ashes would lie on the ground along with theirs, he wiggled and weaseled until they took him seriously. How much could they pay, he asked. Could they pay some, he asked, and if he could pay some, were they willing to make a deal? Perhaps, he said, they could offer a brigands a compromise, money and enjoyment. Basically, he's the one who had the ideas to just murder the purples in exchange for some money. Some money. The authorities recognized the practicality of the council, and indeed a deal was made. which was to the satisfaction of both parties. After the lonesome deed was carried out, Krem of the Yellow Hills was released and even feted. And of course, the celebration, the brigands learned of Krem's undisputable depravity and were nothing but impressed. Recognizing themselves in this sly off-worlder, they offered Krem a passage on their ship in the honor of participation in their further genocidal adventures, basically giving him a free ride out of that town. I was not born naive, nor have I ever taken comfort in the practice of naivete. From the moment I tasted this life's air, I was cognizant that evil was extant, that it was waiting and willing. But in that street that day, in that small town, having heard the story, I was indeed sideswiped. For that day, I learned the truth of all things. So yeah, that's what happened to the town. All the purples murdered in exchange for the blues surviving. You see, either blues and purples go away, or just the purples and some money. So just as every man has two faces, so does every place. You can spend your days knowing just where you are and still be hopelessly lost. And so Ruthie looks at Supergirl and says, all those dead and Krem just got away. All of this is too big and we're just too small. So she loses hope as Supergirl holds her tight and reassures her. And here I will end the story of Supergirl and Maypole. Thank you for listening, watching, enjoying. That was issue 3. We are going to continue on. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Put any more fun suggestions down below. I love going over them. Peace out.